So I don't know if you're noticing this as well, but lately I feel like everywhere I look, so online, on the streets, on runways, people just seem to be dressed like they have literally stepped out of a storybook. So things like baby doll dresses, smock tops, doily lace, frilly socks, and more recently I've also seen so many people wearing extra long bloomers. And I just think there's no denying that girlhood is back in trend and back in style once again, and we're seeing it literally everywhere. So if you look at niche micro trends and street style, or fast fashion retailers, or luxury campaigns, there's just no getting away from this aesthetic, and so much so that it even has creeped into my own personal style and own wardrobe. And I'm really finding that this trend and aesthetic is impacting how I want to dress, the pieces that I wear, and all of this is making me question why fashion is selling girlhood to us again, and literally why are we buying into it again. And also because it is such a polarizing topic in a way, like there's so much conversation, so much discourse around whether it's a good thing or not, and that is why I wanted to discuss this trend today, and it's what this video is going to be about, so let's just get into it. So to start this discussion, I do think it's good to get clear on how we're seeing the girlhood aesthetic trend at the moment, and in my personal opinion, the way that we're seeing it come to life right now in 2025 is kind of a amalgamation of all of the different girlhood cores that we've seen trend over the past 2 years. So of course I'm talking about things like cottagecore or ballet core, or even coquette or dollette core, and also the revival of boho style as well. And personally, I do feel like the way that we're seeing it right now is just a fusion of all these different aesthetics. And of course this has been driven by social media, particularly by TikTok, who has really embraced all of these different very girly whimsical styles. But I do also think that a massive driver for this trend, and also the reason that we're seeing it come to life so much, particularly at the moment, is definitely because of the luxury runways. So I made a video last year that was talking about spring 24 style, and one of the main trends that I was talking about within that video was the hyper feminine style that we'd seen on loads of the 24 runways. So I mentioned people like Simone Rocha and also Sandae Liang as well. I'm pretty sure I also mentioned Prada's show in Milan, or Dries Van Noten's show in Paris, which also embraced this kind of soft romantic aesthetic as well. Effectively, just all of these spring 24 shows were really significant in driving this girlhood trend, and personally I really enjoyed this season because it was just so playful, it was so fun, it was so whimsical, and it was just a very aesthetically pleasing season to witness and to watch. And there was also just so much fashion, media coverage and discourse around the girlhood trend at this time as well. And then when we moved into the fall 24 runways, we sort of saw a continuation of this trend, but in my personal opinion it kind of evolved more into a boho girlhood style, and I think we saw this on the Molly Goddard runways, but more significantly we saw it on the Chloe fall winter 24 runway as well. And it was so significant because I believe this was Chamina Kamali's first season or first debut runway for Chloe, and I really loved this collection at the time. But to be honest, if you would have asked me a year ago if I would have dressed in a boho way or even wanted to wear any of these pieces, I would have said no, because I would have said it wouldn't have fit into my personal style. But it's so funny because now, a year on, I'm loving the boho style so much, and I truly am getting so much inspiration from this runway specifically. But also, to be honest, something I have to mention when you're thinking about the girlhood movement overall, you have to look deeper than just the recent runways or the recent TikTok or social media trends, you have to go a bit further back into fashion history, because this is certainly not the first time that we've seen the girlhood aesthetic be a trend. So if you actually look at the 90s, we saw Anna Sue or Betsy Johnson bring this kind of youthful or doll-like looks onto their runways. And then if you obviously think of the 2010s as well, we saw Sofia Coppola and Marc Jacobs campaigns, and again this kind of had this very similar girly whimsical aesthetic, which again I personally love. And also in the 2010s and 2010s, this was also when the Tumblr era was also taking off, and in a way Tumblr had its own kind of category of girlhood. If you think of Lana Del Rey inspiration and a bit more of a melancholic kind of sad softness girlhood aesthetic. And it's funny because I really feel like all of these times, all of these trends, when you think about them in the past, but also how we've seen them in recent years as well, they've all kind of been defined by their own category. And then now in 2025, I personally feel like they've all come together and all merged into one and kind of collapsed into one curated version of girlhood. And that's how we're seeing it now in 2025, as this kind of all-encompassing trend. So I hope you kind of get what I mean by that, but it's basically that all of these different times, all of these different subsections of girlhood have now come together, merged into this one big trend. And this point, and what I mean by this, kind of goes back to what I was saying at the start, and the fact that we're seeing girlhood not only in street style and micro niche trends, but we're also seeing it in fast fashion on the high street, and we're also seeing it in major luxury campaigns as well. So now I'm going to go through some of my favorite examples of this girlhood trend and how we're seeing it really be just so engulfed by the zeitgeist. And I'm just going to list them off super quick so you have them as references. But the first one is this Under the Stories campaign, which starred Petra Collins and Adoa Aboa as well. I absolutely love the whole vibe of this. And of course we have to mention the Chloe campaigns, specifically this one shot by David Sims. And I particularly love this image with the bloomers. And again, it's so crazy that we're now seeing these kind of bloomers trend so much. And I personally do think that this was really started by Chloe. And also we've seen this McQueen campaign, the Nina Marcus campaign with Nara Smith, of course, Isabel Marant starring Kate Moss, Chanel Spring Summer 25 pre-collection campaign by Sofia Coppola and photographed by Craig Medine, also H&M's Spring Summer 25 campaign with FK Twigs and Tyler, and also there's been a few Miu Miu campaigns which I think are undeniably girlhood as well. And I mention these luxury campaigns because number one, I just really love the aesthetic and how they put them together, but also I think it just highlights the grip that girlhood has on the fashion zeitgeist overall, like I said. And of course, as well as the luxury campaigns, we've also seen this all over TikTok. If you think about the Oh Polly branding on TikTok, or even just the fact that this girlhood trend has trended so much on that platform as well. And finally, in terms of references for this trend, if you also look at fast fashion, so if you look at Mango campaigns, or even just the products that Mango is putting out, or brands like Zara or Free People as well, there are so many products that I personally feel are really incorporating the girlhood aesthetic. But also, as a side note, I do just want to say, and this is coming from personal experience and the fact that this has truly had an impact so much on my personal style, if you do want to dress in a more girlhood way or in a more whimsical feminine way, you can thrift this trend so much. If you go on Vinted and Depop, there are so many pieces that I think fit into this trend, and really they fit into this trend because they are super timeless. So I did just want to mention that as a side note as well. And of course I'm aware that everything that I've mentioned so far has been more to do with the reason reasons why girlhood has trended aesthetically, but of course this whole thing and this whole movement does go deeper than just the aesthetics, and the reason that girlhood and so many people are wanting to dress in this way is quite deep. So if you think of just the uncertainty that we're living through at the moment, and also economic stress and climate anxiety, because of this you could say that the world has embraced dressing like a fairy tale or a more innocent or even childlike version of yourself to kind of create this form of emotional armor. And it's definitely a form of escapism and a way of romanticizing your life through fashion, which I personally feel like a lot of people have found comfort in doing at the moment, especially given the economic state of the world. So I did want to mention that as well. And also I want to mention the kind of polarizing discourse that surrounds girlhood and this trend, because it kind of is split 50-50, that half of the people say that it's empowering and a joyful way to dress, and the other half of the people, or the other half of the discourse in a way, say that it's disempowering and kind of romanticizing or fetishizing the youthfulness or innocent or vulnerable aspect of this trend. And it is honestly this point that I find so compelling about this trend, because it's not just about the clothes, but it's also about the conversation and the polarizing conversation that surrounds them. And a lot of people do think that girlhood is reinforcing this cultural obsession with female youth and also fragility as well. Overall, to be honest, I do think that girlhood is more than just a trend or a phase, even if big brands are trying to repackage it and sell it to us, and we are definitely falling for it, myself included. I think when you look deeper, it does represent a shift in how women are defining power and identity and really doing it on their own terms. So I personally do think it can be framed and looked at in a positive way, but I am so open to hearing what you think about this, or if you disagree, or just your thoughts on all of this in general. But overall, to just kind of conclude and wrap up this video, I want to say that I'm happy that the girlhood trend has been a thing, because personally it's really helped me find and discover new aspects of my personal style. Because like I said at the start of this video, a year ago I would have never thought I would have worn a boho dress or even like a baby doll white dress or something like that, and now I've really embraced it in my wardrobe, and they're actually the pieces that I reach for the most, and I found a lot of confidence, a lot of comfort, and a lot of fun in dressing this way. So personally, I'm really happy that the girlhood trend has trended, and I'm happy that I have bought into it for now at least, but I am definitely intrigued to see if it does stay and last in my wardrobe, or if it is a bit more of a impact of trends, because it doesn't feel like I'm being impacted by trends, but I very well could be, because we are just seeing it so much, and because fashion and brands are marketing it to us so much. So I am very intrigued to see if I keep it in my personal wardrobe, but overall I am just also intrigued to see and hear what you think of this trend, what you think of everything that I've spoken about. I am so open if you disagree with anything, if you lean more to the negative view or think that girlhood is more disempowering. I would love to hear about that as well. But overall, just let me know what you think of this video altogether. So I do hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.